Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning in to part one of my end of year 2022 special. So this will be into four parts, and we'll be looking at the weather that took place over the year in these four parts. So part one will go through January to March, part two from April to June, part three from July to September, and part four from October to December. So we're using the Central England temperature and also the Reanalysis archive from weathercentral.d. So the CET is the average temperature in Central England over a certain month. So, for example, in January, the CET was 4.7. That was the average temperature day and night for the whole month of January in Central England. And the anomaly to that is seen in this column as zero point 0.8 of a degree above average. So months in this column, CET in this column, and the anomaly to average in that column. And notes, well, there aren't any notes apart from in December, because this CET figure isn't complete. This is provisional to the 28th of the month, because of course this month isn't over yet. It's still got I'm doing this on the 30th of December, so there are 2 more days left, and it's got 4 more updates to do yet. So that'll go up into the threes by the end of the month. So we're focusing on January, February, and March, so I'll just highlight them there. So CET for January is 4.7 degrees, and there's 0.8 of a degree above average. February at 6.9 degrees at 3.1 degrees above average. So that was a very mild month, exceptionally mild. And March at 8.0 at 2.3 degrees above average. So very mild, but not quite as mild as February. So let's go through the data from the charts from these months. So starting on New Year's Day 2022, we see low pressure around Iceland, or just the south of Iceland, and high pressure over Europe, and we're dragging up a very, very exceptionally mild southwesterly winds. If I go back to put that on, the temperatures at 850 HPA, which is 1.5 kilometers above sea level. You see that the temperature there is about 10 degrees over Ireland. So this orange shading, that line there, is 10 degrees. And I remember I stayed up to midnight on that day, and I put my hand outside the window. It was cloudy, yes. It was windy, yes. But the wind felt really warm. It felt balmy, like it was summer. It was very, very weird, and very, 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 very exceptional. Just really mind blowing, really, how warm it felt. Anyway, going on into the year, then we want to see every day at midday. That gets pushed away. Then we're just standardly mild. Then into the into the 2nd of January, and into 3rd of January, cold front comes through, and by the 4th we're into a cold snap, a few wintry showers in the north. Then we go high pressure on the 5th of January, and we're frosty and more wet and windy weather on the 6th of January, and on the 7th of January we go briefly colder, and from 10:30 to 11 on this day I got snow, and it accumulated to 2 centimeters, but by 3 p.m. it all melted away. But it was very, 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 very nice while it lasted in quite a snowless winter. And into the 8th of January, more wet and windy weather in of the Atlantic, and we stay that way I went for the I went for a hike in the evening of the 9th of January. What warm front came through. It was very mild and drizzly. Then from the 10th onwards, we start to see high pressure building up from the south, and for the rest of the month, it sat over us, or just to our south, bringing either frosted fog or cloudy and mild weather. So we can see high pressure just coming up from the south. The Azores high coming northwards over us there, a bit frosty, very frosty. The morning of the 13th of January, it was white everywhere, all over the trees. A very harsh air frost on that day, actually. And this actually is mild high pressure, 5 Celsius at 850 HPA. But because clear skies, right? We got clear skies, so there was an inversion. So the warm air on the surface, it just rose up into space because there was nothing really stopping it from doing so, because clouds act as blankets. They stop the warm air escaping, but warm air just escapes into space. Cold air comes down to replace it, and we naturally got really frosty conditions. But in the day, because it was a mild ridge, and the sun shone, we saw mild days, and on we go. So quite spring-like actually, and we went on. High pressure just stays there. We try to get cold on the 19th of January. High pressure tries to go to Greenland, but look at that. Low pressure is just too strong, and it forces it back south, and we stay with the high pressure over us, or just to our south, and we continue, and just towards the end of the month, low pressure to our northwest starts to break down the high pressure and send it back towards the Azores. So February, we're after February. We start February looking very mild, wind off the Atlantic, and February, out of the 3 winter months being December, January, and February was the wettest month. It was the most unsettled, as you can tell, very windy as well. And from the 15th to the 25th of February, we went very, very zonal, a very, very strong polar vortex around Greenland and Canada, and just like cold air to come out into the Atlantic, feel the jet stream, and just throw various low pressures at us in that period. Very, very westerly, very, very zonal, very, very stormy. On the 16th of February, right, we had Storm Dudley. On the 18th, we had Storm Eunice. And on the 20th, we had Storm Franklin. So 3 storms in 5 days. That is truly exceptional. I think that was record-breaking even. So going through to February then, we start off mild and settles. High pressure tries to cling on, but fails. Low pressure comes in off the Atlantic into the 5th of February, and we go cooler and more unsettled. Tries to go cold, but fails. Going to a warm sector there on the 8th of February, and we go colder again, but by the 10th, and very, very unsettled all the time. High pressure tries to come back, fails. Low pressure is just too strong. And around this time, February 15th, look at these colours, these blue and purples over Canada and Greenland. That's the polar vortex. And you can see all this cold air. This fuels the polar vortex, the low pressures and the westerly winds. These cold temperatures go up through the atmosphere into the stratosphere. So you got very, very deep cold pool, very, very big deep cold pool around this area, all through the atmosphere, and you got a zonal westerly wind, very, very strong in the stratosphere, and if that's the case, it's likely to be strong all throughout the atmosphere. So on the surface, you've also got very, very strong westerly winds, and that cold air goes into America and the Atlantic, hits the jet stream, hits this mild air that's lurking towards the Azores, and the combination, the clash, and the jet stream just really spins up areas of low pressure and throws them at us. So we go very, very unsettled for 10 days. So we start with a storm on the 16th of February. We see low pressure just to north of Ireland. That storm Dudley that comes through. Very, very strong winds on the south side of it. It doesn't look that severe, but it was really quite severe. In the afternoon, it was very, very windy, and each gust howled outside. I remember that very well. And briefly less unsettled on the 17th, but look at that. By the 18th, we have Storm Eunice right across the country. In the morning, if we put on the temperature at 850 HPA in the morning, we see that it's cold enough in the northwest for snow. There was snow in the northwest of the country on that day. I saw some pictures, and there was an orange warning for snow there as well. Then we all plunged into cold air and very, very strong winds by midday. For me, in the morning, when I got up, it was calm. Then I got into school, and by 10 a.m, it really started to whip up outside. Very, very strong winds. And we went through into the afternoon, stayed with strong winds, and wintry showers came in. Then we go into the 20th, and there is Storm Franklin. This little low pressure here, not little, big low pressure. Well, this day started just with light rain, and then by early afternoon we had a big squall line coming through, so a big line of very, very heavy rain or hail and very, very strong winds. It was like a very brief whiteout of rain and winds, and that cleared through, and we had showers and strong winds. So another wild day there on the 20th of February. Briefly drier on the 21st, but before on the 22nd of February, more deep low pressure around Greenland. Look at that polar vortex, flat as a pancake, westerly winds coming in off the Atlantic from Greenland, and then we keep going with that theme right on until the 25th. But when this high pressure will build in. But on the 24th of February, we get very briefly colder. There were widespread snow showers across the country on the states. I had some snow in the morning. Then it went very spring-like on the 25th and 26th of February. Very, very spring-like, sunny, warm. Then high pressure goes over us to start the month of March, should I say. This month was mild, unsettled most of the time, but still with some dry spells. Then towards the end of the month, we saw a cold spell that went into April. I'll just go through it then. Also around this time in early March, we had a warming of the stratosphere. Not a sudden warming, just a warming that was enough to kill the polar vortex off. Then, so as we go through into March, we get a cold weekend via that high pressure there on the 6th of March, and we go into the middle of March, and low pressure comes in off the Atlantic. High pressure over Europe, mild, unsettles, just more low pressure. Look at that polar vortex there over Greenland. That is very, very strong, but that's about to get obliterated by that warming. And by the end of the month, we do see high pressure replacing that. See, that's really going away. High pressure over Scandinavia, very, very spring-like, warm, southeasterly winds. I remember that week very well. Just a very, very warm, spring-like week, endless sunshine. Very well remembered. But then by the end of March, you can see high pressure there, going towards Greenland. You can see that now. So by the 31st of March, we're plunged into a cold, northeasterly winds. In the morning of that day, I saw grapple showers and snow showers. Grapple being a mix of hail and snow, and then dried up in the afternoon. But it was a very, very cold day. Look at that! Look at those upper air temperatures, -5 degrees, all the way down into the Bay of Biscay. Yeah, very, very cold, northeasterly winds. That went on into April, and into the first 2 days of April. So that's it for part 1 of our special. I'll be back later with part 2. Thanks for watching, and bye.